I shall resign the presidency effective at noon tomorrow.
After the Watergate scandal, Americans learned that the executive branch had spied on peace groups, on political opponents, even on Martin Luther King. And they learned that the president had considered himself above the law.
Well, when the president does it, that means that it is not illegal.
After Nixon's downfall, Congress passed laws to restore checks and balances. To ultra-conservatives like Dick Cheney, this was all wrong. They wanted the president to have even more power. They thought they could do that in the Reagan years.
I do.
The Reagan-Mies agenda was to dramatically limit the powers of Congress and the courts and expand the power of the presidency. That's the simplest way to put it.
They made some headway then. But 13 years later came September 11th. That gave them another chance.
This administration has come to power in the thrall of a legal theory that aims to convince us that this excessive concentration of presidential power is exactly what our Constitution intended.
This expansive view even alarms some of the president's supporters.
I think the administration has looked at legitimate power of the executive during a time of war and taken it to extremes, to the point that we would lose constitutional balance. And it concerns me that it could basically neuter the Congress and weaken the courts. That's where we're at right now.
I don't believe that's where we're at right now.
That's where you're at with me.
The Bush administration has brushed aside the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act and the Constitution to spy on Americans.
It is against the law to wiretap or eavesdrop on the conversations of Americans in this country without a warrant from a judge. But the New York Times says that is exactly what the president secretly ordered the National Security Agency to do in the months after 9/11.
Do I have the legal authority to do this? And the answer is absolutely.
The law is that you go to the court and you get a warrant. The law was enacted with speed in mind. It said you can go out and do whatever it is you have to do without wasting 1 second, and then come back retroactively to do the paperwork, to get the warrant.
And the president, rather than seeking to change that, rather than going to Congress and saying, I need broader authority, simply violated a criminal statute and went out and secretly, without congressional approval and without any judicial approval, went out and violated the law.
To hardliners, the president's authority to get around wiretap laws knows no bounds.
So you can't rule out purely domestic warrantless surveillance between two Americans?
I'm not going to rule it out, but what I've outlined for you is the framework in which we would analyze that question.
What other powers would they grant the president?
Basically the power to lock up human beings without trial, without lawyers, on the president's say-so, without any meaningful judicial review.
That allows them to arrest an American citizen on American soil and put them in prison, keep them there indefinitely, and they never see a lawyer or a judge, never get a hearing, never get a chance to prove that they did nothing wrong. I mean, these kind of policies go to the heart of what America is about.
They've even said the president can authorize torture.
They've claimed this right to engage in torture, even though American law makes torture a crime. Less than 2 weeks ago, the White House claimed the right to set aside the McCain Torture Amendment that passed the Senate 90-9.
The president's argument echoes the infamous torture memo written by former Justice Department official Jay Bybee.
The Office of Legal Counsel at the Justice Department, they issued a legal opinion, which they kept very secret, in which it concluded that the President of the United States had the power to override domestic and international laws outlawing torture.
Lawyers in that office actually advised the Attorney General of the United States, it's only torture if your organs are failing.
What the Bybee memo led to didn't stay a secret.
Abu Ghraib is a national disgrace. It's a stain on our Constitution, and it's a stain on our reputation in international law. What essentially has been said is that the president's power as commander-in-chief allows him to function as a torturer-in-chief, and that's certainly nothing that was part of any original constitutional vision.
The law may be hard and complicated, but the law isn't any one person gets to say what the law is. That's the original understanding of the U.S. Constitution.
In the past 2 years, ultra-conservatives saw the Supreme Court repudiate their view of presidential power. But the justices they idolize embraced it. And Jay Bybee has a lifetime judgeship on the Ninth Circuit. So, can we stop the quiet revolution? Is it too late?
It's not too late at all. I think we've done a good job of pushing back, but we have to keep doing it. We have to push back harder. What we have to keep in mind is that we're on the right side, and we've always been on the right side. We're protecting people who need our protection, but we've got to make certain that we're doing it in a way that is really competitive. So we've got to be smarter and harder working and more aggressive in presenting the arguments that we think are the right arguments.
I think my hope for my generation is that we'll dream big. This is what the right did about 30 years ago, and they've been incredibly successful. I think we need to be incredibly ambitious about the fact that people genuinely care about the same things that we genuinely care about, and about communicating that passion to everybody and making this an inclusive movement that everybody in America is committed to.
What's remarkable about history is ordinary people doing extraordinary things. Last year Rosa Parks passed away. I remember sitting on this stage with world leaders and Bill Clinton and senators and governors and thinking we were all paying homage to a seamstress who had transformed the country and helped transform the world. We never know sort of how our actions are going to ripple. We may surprise ourselves with the amount of influence that in fact we have just by standing up or speaking out.
So when this film is over, don't just go home. Go to work, because there's plenty of work to do, whether you're a lawyer taking a case, a philanthropist writing a check, a politician creating a law, or a student leading an organization. Victory, Teddy Roosevelt said, comes to those in the arena. Enter it. We won't succeed in one day. It'll take every day and every one of us, but we can do it. Freedom, equality, justice. We must fight to protect that vision of the law so that our laws can protect us.